Hello, this is Dan again, and today in this segment what we're going to do is we're going to replace an evaporator using the LokRing method. We've already shown you how to measure the tubing to ensure that you're using the right size LokRing. Now, when replacing an evaporator, PPE is required. You're handling razor sharp fins on the evaporator, and it's just smart to wear some sort of PPE on your hands when you're bringing the evaporator in and out. I've already prepped the unit, so we're not going to go into recovery of the refrigerant or anything like that. This unit is recovered, there's no refrigerant in it, and we're ready to remove the evaporator. I've already removed the freezer drawer. So I've got my new evaporator. So what I need to do, I've got a tubing cutter there, remembering that I need 30 millimeters of straight wall tubing before a bend so my LokRing will fit on there properly. With the new evaporator, we're not going to be able to put a LokRing where this goes down conical. So what we're going to do is think outside the box a little bit. I want you to ignore the joints. If the joints are not leaking, don't worry about them. So what we're going to do to use LokRing to replace this evaporator is we're going to cut right here where my finger is on this straight tubing, both the front and the back. Now you'll notice it looks like a slight bulge here. So I've got to cut behind the bulge, cut that tubing, cut it here, make the same cuts in there, and then I'm going to be able to LokRing this in. Now, let me be a little more specific. When I put this one in, I'm going to cut right off the bulge and then put my LokRing right in the middle. Now, from the earlier presentation, we know anytime we're joining to aluminum, we must be using an aluminum double LokRing, and I've got those in my kit. Okay, what I want to do first is disconnect my wiring harnesses, move them out of the way, and get my tubing cutter up here. I can see where the bulge ends, and as long as I cut where all this tubing is the same diameter, I'm good. Once that's cut, bring that out of the way. Now, I'm going to get my back one. You're replacing this evaporator, so as you see I'm bending the parts that don't matter. Now I've got the old evaporator out. Now all I've got to do is prep my new evaporator. What I'm going to do is give myself enough room to make my cuts, and I'm going to cut this tubing, making sure I have my 30 millimeters of straight. So I'm going to cut right here, and when I go to put this in, I'm going to make sure that I'm working from the back forward to make it easier on me when I put my LokRings in. I'm prepping the new evaporator to go in by cutting on the aluminum, cutting out the copper pieces so I can use my LokRing to join the tubing to the evaporator. I already measured this once, but as a good carpenter once said, measure twice, cut once. Close it on the straight wall. I'm measuring 8.3. I'm going to come at it from 90 degrees off. I'm going to go ahead and round it up. And this one, they both were right at 7.9 something or the other, so I'm going to use two 8 connectors. Do a light clean, making sure your tubing is always pointed down when you use sandcloth. Bring your coil back up, and we're going to set it in place slightly. I'm going to put a couple of drops of lock prep on, slide my union on, rotate it 360, come to the other one, put a drop or two on it. I will dry fit the union, making sure I shove my tubing all the way in, rotate 360 degrees, and it's pushing apart, so I know when I get in there I'm going to have to hold it. I'm on my LokRing, I'm pushing it over to where I'm butted up inside, and I'm going to slowly start cranking it. I've got a good hold. And the LokRing is closed up internally. And I'm going to go ahead and hang my evaporator. Once again, I'm going to put a couple of drops of lock prep on, my connector, 360. My other one, lock prep, slide it in, 360. I butt it up. I'm going to open this up, grab hold. Now I need some angle here, so I'm going to move this. And we now have an evaporator installed with LokRing. My evaporator's hung on the left and right. Plug my wires back up. Okay, at this point, we're back in. Everything from here on is just like using a torch. I will go to the back, change my dryer, and we'll show you in a subsequent video how to replace a dryer using LokRing. I would charge the unit up to about 100 psi of nitrogen. Check both sides of my LokRing for leakage. Take your soap bubbles and put bubbles on both sides of your union and make sure you're not getting any bubbles. In other words, you don't have a leak. Use the inspection mirror to see behind the LokRing to make sure it's not bubbling on the backside. If there's no leak there, check any joints you made in the back, i.e. your dryer. Pull a vacuum on it, recharge the system. Gentlemen, using LokRing, put an evaporator in, is a whole lot easier and less chance of damaging a liner. My coffee's still hot. Y'all have a good day.